Hello and welcome back to this new video. Today I am going to talk about how you can deal with kiters in Faction and Warfare Lowsec. So how you can kill all those annoying, fast people, or how you can escape from them. So I have a few things prepared and I'd say we jump right in. There are a few ways that you can kill kiters, and the first one that we're going to talk about is the easiest one, which is just having simply more speed than the kiter. For this I have 4 flights prepared here, number 1 being this Rifter, which I fly in the first fight that I'm going to be showing after the fitting explanation. And because I was just flying around there, not really planning on fighting kiters, I changed my initial afterburner fit to an MWD fit. So from items I had lying in the station there in system, I put up this fit, and you see it's not working with the CPU. So in the clip you can see that I have my gyro stab offline, just so I had something that could deal with the kiter. This is a pretty standard Rifter. I actually forgot to put the ammo in there, so just load ammo so you can see the DPS. It is a bit of a weird shield fit. I flew it with AB initially, just profiting from the high speed, but yeah, like this it is okay DPS, and for dealing with a kiter, kiters usually don't have that much tank, it's definitely enough. 6k EHP, and a crazy amount of speed. This is 6,800 meters per second, cold. If you overheat, you reach 5.4, which should be faster than most kiters. There are of course extremes and people using high-grade snakes, which will be faster, but usually you can escape from those by using their speed against them, because if they fly away from you to get into a standard 20 kilometers orbit, you can fly away from them as well, and you land at 30 kilometers, and in the end you can warp off, usually, if you use your heat on the MWD correctly. So this is the first fit, and the weird one that I used in the clip that I'm going to be showing in a minute. Then here is a second option. This is a Condor that goes 3.4 cold, and almost 5k hot, which is just a standard rocket Condor transformed to MWD. With okay tank and okay DPS. I would always use a Rifter instead of a Condor for anti-kiter, because the Condor is just not that good. But of course the Condor is extremely cheap, like less than 5 million for a good anti-kite ship. Still, it's a good ship. Then I'm going to skip the Comet, I'm going to show that in a minute. The Tristan, the Merlin is actually not a very common anti-kite ship, because people underestimate it, and especially underestimated speed. 3 kilometers a second is the slowest from all the ones that I showed you so far, but people don't expect a Merlin to go this fast, so with this surprise effect, and with 4.3 kilometers a second heated, you can actually manage to catch kiters that don't pay attention. And of course, on anti-kite ships you always want either a scoped warp scrambler or a T2 warp scrambler for the bit of extra range to make the catching easier. And the nice thing about this Merlin is the really good amount of tank, which is the best so far, and especially once you tackle something 200 DPS, or wait, like this, 240 DPS heated is no joke, and most kiters will die in seconds. And these are the options for Tier 1 anti-kite ships. And then of course there's the GOAT, greatest of all times, the Comet, that works in every scenario, and this is the most amazing. 240 DPS cold, almost, well, 6.6k EHP, plus an Ansel armor wrapper, 4.3 kilometers a second cold, and 6.2 hot. This is ridiculous, and this is definitely the ship to pick if you want to spend a bit more. And of course, if you want to fly a Comet and put a bit extra on, I would definitely suggest the T2 hull rigs, because you reach 7.2k EHP, and it only costs 7 million more. But that depends on your wallet and how you want to do it. But this is definitely the craziest, fastest ship to tackle kiters, which also works very well against slicers. But of course, this Comet, if it gets tackled by anything brawly, it's dead, because you have no range control. When the enemy turns your MWD off, you go 500 meters a second, there's no chance you're gonna escape or do much, and then you can just overheat the guns and hope to survive. But yeah, that's not the best choice. Okay, I'd say we should jump into the first clip right away. and see how that worked out. So here we are. I'm flying the Rifter that I just showed you, and I arranged a 1v1 at the sun with this Tristan. I am now slowly faking as if I had an afterburner, going about 1000 meters a second and slowly approaching him like that. Now I'm waiting to get into his closer range, and then suddenly I'm going to put my speed at maximum, like what I'm doing now. And with maximum ramming speed I'm just approaching him, clicking keep at range, and I get the scram on him just like that. I do mismanage my heat a bit, and I lose scram on him for 1 more second, but I get it back immediately before he can NWD away again, and even if he would try, I would still be faster, and I can catch up to him. And as soon as I'm in range, you see my DPS does wonders, and he's in hull already, barely able to rep, and he dies. GF, bye bye Tristan. So, let's get back to the fits. Okay, you see how I could use my superior speed on the Rifter to slingshot that Tristan into range, and then the 166 DPS was enough to blast through him and kill him in time before he did too much damage to me. So that is way number 1 of how to deal with kiters. And then the second way is slingshotting. This is a technique based on how the automatic orbit and keep at range works. When your enemy clicks keep at range on your ship, for example on 16 kilometers, his ship will fly away at maximum speed from you till he reaches 16 kilometers, then the ship will slow down and approach again to that 16 kilometers mark. So when he goes on a very fast kite ship like 4 kilometers a second, and he flies away from you with maximum speed, he lands at about 20 kilometers before his ship slows down and realizes it's gone too far, and it will approach to you again, until it then slowly settles at 16 kilometers, if you don't move. If you, however, move in the opposite direction from him, so you do what is counterintuitive, you run away from the kiter with maximum speed, his ship will land at 24 kilometers from you, which is about the range of a T2 warp disruptor, and his ship will immediately turn around and fly with maximum speed at you again to land at that 16 kilometers range that the pilot set previously. So, if you turn around at the same second the other pilot turns around, you can meet in the middle and get a web and maybe even a scram on the enemy. And especially if you fly a dual web fit, it is way easier, but it even works with single web ships, and you can get a web and scram on him, and then you basically won. You just get close, put damage on them, and you won. So that is for when your opponent uses an automatic keep at range. If he uses an automatic orbit, it is a bit more tricky, and I also have a clip to show you how you do it then. You have to double click manually in space and check a bit more where he flies currently to then adjust to that. And that is if your enemy uses the automatic orbit and keep at range commands. If, however, your enemy uses manual piloting, it gets a bit more tricky, because if your enemy is not that good at manual piloting, it will actually be easier to slingshot them, because they might not react as fast as the ship would react if it were on auto keep at range. But, however, if they are a good manual piloter, they can anticipate your slingshot try and preheat their warp disruptor and then casually follow you without ramming with you at maximum speed. So if your enemy uses manually piloting, it can either be way easier or way more difficult. And for this, again, I have the 2 fits that I used in the 2 clips that I'm going to be showing you in a minute. Of course, you can use other fits as well, but these are the ones that I usually use. We have the standard rocket Condor here, which has really good speed, and with your overheated afterburner you can get 1.7 meters a second. And then with heated web and scram you can catch people pretty easily. 13 kilometers web range and 10 kilometers scram range usually is enough to slingshot into their range and then get them. And of course the nude helps a lot. The second fit I used in the video is this Atron, which goes actually even faster on AB Win 7 hot, and it has more DPS but a bit less buffer tank. So for example a kite slicer or a kite rifter can potentially 1 or 2 shot you before your rapper has time to cycle and repair you. So that's of course always a bit tricky. Of course, you can always also use something like a slasher or an executioner, which are all fast Tier 1 frigates. And of course, you can also use other Tier 1 frigates, but this would be the optimal scenario. Other Tier 1 frigates have it way more difficult to slingshot someone because they just have less speed overall, but it is still possible. And usually you can't pick a fight with a kiter or not, and so you should always be prepared to fly in a slower ship, but slingshots are possible with all of them. So I'd say we see the 2 clips, and yeah, let's go. Here we are in the clip where I'm flying a Condor and I'm fighting this Atron. I zoom in on him to see if he's actually rail fit, and yes he is. I'm still sitting at the beacon, not moving, waiting for him to get close, and now that he's approaching me rather quickly, I'm just clicking approach, and I get a web on him, and before he can pull more range I also get the scram on him, and just like that I bluffed to be AFK and caught him in a slingshot maneuver. Now I can orbit him 500 and talk to the Comet that I actually wanted to 1v1 in this scout that was preoccupied. And now I'm basically won this fight, so I'm not very nervous anymore. I'm just orbiting him, getting the last good shots in, and before the Comet guy can help me kill it, the Atron dies. And there it goes. Here's the Comet. And let's get to the second fight of the example. This time I am in a Crucifier with a tracking disruptor, which is of course not optimal against a missile ship, so I don't even bother using it. And this pilot is not using the auto keep at range like the Atron, but he's using the auto orbit, which is a bit more tricky. So he is orbiting me at around 20 kilometers, and now that I realize that, I'm double clicking on top of my ship, so I'm flying upwards from him, and now you see I pulled a lot of range from him, and his ship, trying to get back into the auto orbit, is now getting close to me very fast. I click approach as well, and before his ship can turn around, I double click again in front of him and get both weapon scram on him. I just orbit him 500 from being used to it, but then I change to just approaching, and he's already in low shields, and now I just do keep at range to apply maximum damage. He does do a lot of damage per volley, but I have enough buffer tank to survive like this, and he does get off more than 2-3 volleys and he's dead. GF, bye bye Condor. GF in local, and there's the Comet. Pretty standard tracking disrupted Condor. Let's get back to the fits. Okay, you saw the 2 slingshot maneuvers that I did, one with the auto keep at range and the other one with the auto orbit, and how I could manage to tackle both of them. And let's get to the next method of how to deal with kiters, which is by outranging them. You can be quicker than them, you can have more range, or you can catch them when they don't expect it. And here I'm going to talk about how you can deal with them if you have more range. And with more range, I mean not necessarily more range than they have, but more range than an average brawler. So they are not safe at the 20 kilometer mark, is what I'm saying. So I have 2 fits here, one being the RT Rifter that I used in the first clip that I'm showing you. It is a bit of a messed up weird fit, but it works surprisingly well. It is Afterburner dual web with about 1000 meters a second, which is not too great, but it's enough. And the 2 webs, and of course 2 webs with both 13 kilometers range. You can combine this with a slingshot technique, and if you get both webs on your enemy, you are in a really good situation, because they will then have to fly away from you. And at the time they are flying away from you, you get very very good hits at them while they try to get range from you. And here on the RT I have 22 kilometers on faction ammo, and usually you would want to have EMP and fusion ammo just in case you fight shield or armor brawler, kiter, sorry. So you would always have to change up ammo, and of course you have Quake, a bit less range, a bit more DPS, barely makes any difference. But this does kinetic and explosive damage, and EMP does EM and, well, mainly EM damage. And you should always carry the longest range ammo, Tremor in this case, just in case something like a Garmur tackles you that has more range and you still want to catch that. With 40 kilometers fall off, you should be able to hit most Garmurs. So that's the Rifter fit I use. And the second fit I use in the second clip is this Tormentor. That is also dual web fit, and this fit actually also works as a brawler. You can check out my other video where I use this Tormentor, but it is very good as an anti-kiter as well, and you can just load Aurora and you get 30 kilometers optimal and 33 fall off on 120 DPS, pure EM and thermal damage, so optimal against shield clips, and a bit less speed than the Rifter, but still dual web, and also a bit less tank, but this performs really well against, for example, Kite Condors, while I would use the Rifter more for Slicers and Kite Tristans perhaps. And actually a third fit I forgot, any Tristan with Warrior Drones can apply to most Kiters, so if you fly a Tristan you're fine. I don't have to show a specific fit because any Tristan fit that uses Warrior Drones, which are the quickest drones, can do this. So I'd say we jump into the two clips where I show you the Rifter and Tormentor in action. Let's go. So here I am in my R2 Rifter fit that I just showed you, and I am fighting the smallest Navy issue. I'm pressing my standard keep at range, and he's approaching me rather quickly. God, can't speak. I got both webs on him as I described earlier by slingshotting him, and now he is flying away from me in a straight line, so I get perfect hits with my artillery. I was using the wrong ammo. I think I had EMP loaded in this fight because I didn't have fusion, but I still do a lot of damage to him, and he's already in low hull. I still got my webs on him, and I'm actually slowly catching up to him because with him being dual webbed and me heating my afterburner, I'm quicker than him in his MWD ship, so I'm just keep getting these perfect hits in, and boom, he dies. GF, bye bye Maulus Navy. They used to kill me. Okay, then we have a second example. Again, because he approaches me so quickly and I approach him as well, I get both webs on Soria in his Condor, and now I start shooting him with Aurora and I absolutely melt him. He's manages to get out of my web range, but he's still flying away in a straight line, and I get a last shot in and boom, he dies already. Super quick fight. Okay, let's get back to the fits. Okay, and then finally to the last method, which is simply being in the plaques when they come to you and catching them as they slide into you. And for this, again, you can use almost any T1 frigate, but you have to be very cautious, and you have to be focused with all your mind to do this. And very important when someone slides into you in a kiter, that you have your web, scram, and afterburner preheated, which means that you want your afterburner off when he slides in, because first of all, you're more agile with the afterburner off. You see 4.17 seconds align time with the afterburner on, 2.85 with it off, meaning that whichever direction your enemy goes to, your ship can follow him quicker when you have your afterburner off. And when you then immediately activate it with the heat damage, with the heat on, you get the initial very quick burst of speed combined with the agility of no prop having active yet when you combine the two things at basically the same second. And web and scram preheated is super important, of course, so they don't manage to slip out of your range. And then you just keep at range or orbit or whatever to put maximum damage on them. And what is very important to note is that, again, the Slasher, the Condor, the Atron, and the Executioner are specifically good for this, ST1 frigates, because they have the highest scan resolution in the game. This is the speed at which you can lock targets, so if you want to lock a kiter, it is way quicker with one of these 4 ships than with any of the other T1 frigates. For example, if I simulate the Merlin fit again, it only has 725 millimeters compared to the 1175 of the slasher. So that is important when someone slides in on you, or when you see a slicer in system going wild. You can get into one of these 4 ships and sit in the plex and wait for him to come for you, and then be ready and put everything on him. So the first clip that I'm showing you is I'm actually in the Condor again, which also has a very, very high scan resolution. And yeah, how I managed to tackle one. And then the second clip is actually a combination of all the techniques that I showed you, because I am in an MWD Comet, but I am sitting inside a plex, and a Garmur slides in on me, so you can see how that works out. And I'd say we check out the last 2 clips, and then we are done for today. Here I am in the Scout plex, and the Executioner slides in on me. I immediately spam lock. I have my AB, web, and scram preheated. You see I'm approaching him with max speed, and I managed to get all the tackle on him. I'm just approaching. He got to about 5-6 kilometers from me, but it was not quite enough to get out of my scram range, and now I can get into a confident orbit and rather quickly melt through his little tank. And you see, one more volley, and he's down already. That was a nice and quick fight, and a good example of how to catch people when they slide into you. And yeah, we have another example though, so let's get there. Here I am again in the plex, this time in the anti-kite Comet that I talked about earlier. So I know that I'm super speedy, and now you can see that the person in local that is not in my militia just changed from normal neutral to flashy, so I knew he activated the acceleration gate. And here he is. I just spam approach and lock. I have my MWD on already, so I can get close to him very quickly and just put all the damage on him. But because it's a Garmur, he does have a huge volley of 170 DPS, I'd say. And you see he is making my tank hurt a bit, even though I caught him immediately. So if he had escaped me, I would have surely been a lot rougher fight. But like this, I can pretty easily melt him. And the usual GF in local, and I open the loot, and I'm shocked. 220 mil, I was so lucky with the loot drops in this fight. And you can imagine how much my heart was racing, and I really, really wanted to get back to a station after that. And yeah, there's Comet. Pretty much a standard Garmur. So, now you know how to deal with kiters, and yeah, now if you usually fly as a kiter yourself, you now also know what your weaknesses are and what you have to be careful with. And I'd say grab your frigate or grab your kiter or whatever and fly out there, kill some stuff, and don't get got. As always, have a good day, and I'd say see you in the next video. Oh yeah, and if you have any questions or ideas or something, just let me know in the comments. And also, if you want a kite or anti-kite fit, you can also put it in the comments, and I will send it to you in a mail or put it in an answer comment. So yeah, enjoy, have a good day, bye bye.